Thank you, and thanks to SEB for inviting me, and thanks to all of you for actually coming here. And I'm kind of wondering, the messages that I have to you, are they relevant? Because I travel the world, I work with big companies. I work with what I call corporate innovation teams in the big companies. And I had an interview yesterday, a good talk with a guy called Gintautas de Guit. He's from, you probably know this newspaper, Verslo Seniors. I'm sorry for my pronunciation, but I don't speak your language that well. But he actually asked some great questions. And the question was very much about what I do, and I was quite pleased that if that interests him and hopefully also his readers, my messages might also be relevant for you guys. However, since most of you are fairly small companies, medium-sized companies, some of the message I have is how to interact in an ecosystem, open innovation, which is driven and run and controlled by big companies primarily. So hopefully I can give you some insights on how you can fit into this one. And also more importantly, as your companies grow, you also need to be ready from the transition, which is from going from a small company to a medium-sized company to a bigger company. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those differences and give you some advice on how you can actually make that transition. So what is innovation? And how do we actually get innovation to market? And I really like this cartoon here because it builds on this product adoption life cycle. And it's actually very, very easy to go in and sell to people here, innovators and early adopters. These are, well, people who buy more or less anything. So you might be in a situation, you have a small company, 2, 5, 10, 50 people, and you're selling to these markets right there. And I'm sorry to say that's not that difficult because, as I said, people like that are really going to buy more or less everything. The challenge is, how can you cross this chasm here? How can you go from the early adopters and the innovators to the main market, the early majority? This is where the big business is. This is where you really start making money. And that's the challenge, and it's a book about 30 years old now, Crossing the Chasm. It really explains this very well, and especially for IT companies. And I know that many of your companies are IT related, so that's something you could check into. But you know what? This is changing too. This used to take perhaps 3, 4, 5, 7 years to get into this cycle, but not anymore. Some things has changed. It's a faster pace. There's a shrinking window of opportunity. When I look at the world like 10 years ago and compare today, 10 years ago we had this window of opportunity. Especially big companies, but also startups had this window of opportunity, and they had to hit it, get the innovation to market. And this window of opportunity was moving quite slow, so it's quite easy to hit this window. But you know what? The window of opportunity today looks like this, and it moves much faster. It's much more difficult to hit it. The reason being, as I said earlier on, it's just much faster paced today. It's much more open. It's much more global, much more competition. Of course, also many more opportunities. The thing is also, when you hit this window of opportunity, this is really a problem, especially for big companies. When you hit this window of opportunity, it used to be the big one. You can make good money. You had a cash cow for perhaps 5 to 7 years. But now we've seen some industries, they need to renew themselves and launch new products even every 3rd month or so. You do not have the cash cows anymore. So I talked about the megatrends, and we also need a more holistic approach to innovation. We need to get beyond the thinking that innovation is about products, it's about technologies. It's much more than just that. And one thing I would like to talk about, one of my key topics, and I've written a couple of books on this one, is open innovation. And in my mind, open innovation is not really a process or toolbox. It's a mindset. It happens up in your heads. Are you ready to open up? Are you on the old paradigm, the closed paradigm, in which you do everything yourself inside your company? Or are you in the new paradigm, which is open innovation? That's how innovation is going to happen in the future. Of course, we're still going to see you're going to do lots of things internally, even in small companies, medium-sized big companies, but we're going to see much more opening up to new partners and new ecosystems. I have this book about actually how small companies can work within the open innovation areas, and you can download it for free on my website if you want to. It's a PDF version. But this is what I view about innovation, or open innovation, and I do actually think it's going to disappear. The term open innovation is going to disappear in just 5 to 7 years. And it's kind of strange to say this because I make my living based on that terms, giving talks, sessions, and workshops and consulting. But I don't think we're going to talk about open innovation 5 to 7 years from now. But the reason is that we have innovation here. And if I ask you guys about what innovation is, we're not going to be done for the next 24 hours. We're going to sit here still debate what is innovation. And then we have another discussion, what's open innovation? We shouldn't get too hung up in definitions. You need to find your own definition of innovation, your company's one that fits your situation. But the thing is, when we talk about innovation here and open innovation here, they're going to merge together. And 5 to 7 years from now, it's just going to be called innovation, as we know today. But the difference is, it's going to have a much higher element of external input to your efforts. You're going to have a much higher degree of external partners in your innovation process. When I work with open innovation, I'm actually right now developing this assessment in which you can go and look at it. Why should you do open innovation, assets and needs, value pools, and so forth? And I also have this one, communication strategy. Communication is becoming so important for innovation efforts today. I'm going to touch a little bit about this later on. When we look at open innovation, you can actually, especially from the point of view from a big company, you can work with different kind of value pools, internally on this side and externally on this side. And you can see here startups, VC suppliers, they actually tend to be, if you have like a top 5 list in big companies, smaller companies is viewed as one of the main sources of partners. So there's lots of opportunities for smaller companies to go in and work with these bigger companies. And we can also go in and say there's different types of external input. I assume all of you heard about Starbucks, the coffee chain. But you know, they also have something called My Starbucks Idea. Any of you ever visited My Starbucks Idea? It's a place, a website, a portal in which you can go in and submit ideas on how Starbucks should improve their business. And you know what? Anything goes. You can submit that they should change the whole business model, but you can also just go into the more simple things like they should change the color of toilet paper. They should have a new drink flavor. Anything goes. And that's kind of where we can go in and say that when we talk about open innovation, or another term related to that, crowdsourcing, you can talk about invitations. Do you work with everyone? And everyone is allowed to participate on this platform. And there are no instructions. I mean, you can suggest anything. They got more than 300,000 ideas over the years. The implementation rate, however, is more like 0.005%. So you can also debate, is this a marketing tool or is it an innovation tool? Well, we'll talk about this later. Another way to look at it is that what if you have lots of instructions, directed instructions, and only relatively few people? Then you can go in and look at what we can call innovation intermediaries. Innovation intermediaries like Nine Sigma, Innocentive, they have hundreds of thousands of people in their network, people like yourself, individuals, companies as well, who can help solve problems. So you have seekers, someone with problems, and you have solvers, and they can come together. And that's what they actually facilitate at Nine Sigma and Innocentive. And they do it in a way in which it becomes much more focused. It's not for everyone. And it's very directed. You need to go in and actually work on a specific challenge here. And the thing is that companies working with open innovation need to work around all these different kinds of external input, and also alliances and joint ventures. And you see big companies also inviting in startups to see how we can work together. Interesting opportunities there. Again, you can go in and look on 15Inno, and you can actually get the workbook, all the exercises here, but you can also get that free book there. So move a little fast forward here. Which industries are most ready for open innovation? I assume in this room we have a range of industries, but just to get a better understanding, just by show of hands, how many of you guys are from IT-related industries? IT-related industries, financial services, and then we have a delegation from SEB probably as well. How about manufacturing? Okay, that's good. Okay, how about electronics? A few companies there as well. Retail, Okay, you're much more diverse than I actually expected. I thought it'd be more IT, but that's a good thing. Okay, so in which industries are open innovation? Is open innovation relevant? I kind of identify 5 things that we need to consider. The cycle time. It's about how long time does it actually take to get the idea and then get that idea to market, the innovation cycle time. How long is this one? And just to give you an example, Procter & Gamble, one of the biggest fast-moving consumer good companies out there. I mean, let's say they want to do a new shaver, and they do try to tell us the shavers are very high-tech and sophisticated, but I don't really buy that, do you? I mean, it's not like that much electronics and things like that. It's fairly simple, but they try to charge us for something that's much more expensive than it perhaps should be. But if they want to do a new shaver, how fast can they do this one? Put another blade on and make some changes and things like this one? 6 months, a year maybe? They could have a new version out there with some new things which they could call innovation, so 6 months. Does it require lots of money to do this? Well, depends how you actually figure it out. For them, yeah, probably not that much. For you guys, it might be a ton of money. But what if we compare to pharma? How long time does it take to bring out a blockbuster drug? 10, 15 years. And the new figure says it costs about $1 billion to bring a new blockbuster drug to market if you succeed. So compared to P&G, you have a whole different scenario. And that's what I would like for you to consider. Where on this spectrum would you be with your industries? Would you be more towards the pharma, which is not really that adopted to open innovation yet? They're trying a lot, especially by working with biotech companies. Or would you be more in the fast-moving consumer goods? That industry has been doing this for about 10 years now. And if you're not already very good at doing open innovation in the fast-moving consumer good industries, you're way behind. So, and your industries will probably be somewhere in between this area. And the other things that you can consider, how much intellectual property, patents, how important are they for your industry? The more important they are, the more protected your industry is, the less likely you will be to open up in your industry. And that also goes into how conservative is your industry. And the last one, which is kind of a result of the other things, how is your internal readiness for open innovation in your companies? So being startups, I really hope that you're more like the new paradigm of innovation, which you already today think that, hey, the world is open, it's global. And how can we play a role in this one? Let me show you some examples of open innovation. This one is Ingenuity of Scion, and they made this site called Ingenuity Working about 4 years ago. Scion is actually being bought by Motorola now. There were about 1,000 people in that company, and they're about to go bankrupt. They just couldn't make it anymore. They're about to go bankrupt, so they brought in a new CEO, and this CEO was actually quite interesting because he really changed how they should innovate. That's the first way he saw, if we're going to succeed long term, we need to change how we innovate. Okay, so he got started on that one. And I had some interaction with this company and also had an interview with the CEO and asked him, so why would you actually go in and change how you innovate? And in this mean open up the innovation process, go in and work with modular innovation, open innovation. And then he said something which I really like a lot. He wants to do open innovation because they want to become competitively unpredictable. Just taste it, competitively unpredictable. I just love the taste of that term. Which companies would not like to become competitive and predictable? And this one, the CEO actually wanted to do so. John Connolly is his name. So I asked him, what are you going to do for this? How are you going to make it happen? And this was not an ordinary CEO, because how many CEOs would say, I have no idea? He didn't have any idea how to make this happen. But it's my job as the CEO to create the right frameworks, to create the right conditions for this to happen. And that's how we need to look at innovation today. It's about creating conditions and frameworks. It's hard to actually go out there and work with a blueprint or one model only and just make it happen. I mean, you need to experiment your way, and you need to find methods and methodologies to work for you. And there are a ton of methods and methodologies out there, but they're not really suited for SMEs. And personally, I really look forward to get to know more about the iEngines tool later today and see how it can help challenges for the SMEs and see how it also addresses the experimentation phase, which is so important today. Crowdsourcing. I'm just going to put this one up there for a little while, because crowdsourcing is related to open innovation, but it's more about crowdsourcing for business to consumers, whereas open innovation is more business to business. And just again, by show of hands, how many of you would say that your business is more business to business versus business to consumer? So how many of you are B2B? About half of you. Okay, thanks. Just some examples of crowdsourcing and how to involve the crowd. Many of you probably looked into funding, and you've heard about things like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and it's really starting to take off. And I even hear that you've got Baltic companies being quite successful right now in raising money through these channels here. And you need to be registered either in the UK and the US to do so, but hopefully we're going to get some more European versions that can make this work. We also have the innovation intermediaries that I talked about here. We see lots of things happening on crowdsourcing worldwide. The US is having a really big initiative called challenge.gov. The United Arab Emirates, Finland, the Netherlands are doing interesting things. We also see it on products. Some of you might have heard about Quirky. I'm going to talk a little bit about locomotives. And we also see bigger companies doing these things. Let me just show you the case of Lego. And I'm from Denmark, so Lego is like the rock star company in Denmark right now, actually more or less worldwide. They're doing some really cool things. And they were about to go bankrupt 7 years ago. It was so close that they had to shut down. They lost so much money, but they also changed how they innovate and took a new approach on this one. But they also, some years ago, started some new initiatives, including Lego Cuso. And even though it's not that active yet, it shows how the mindset is changing in a big company like Lego. And at Lego Cuso, you can go in and say, I have a great idea. I would like to build an Apple store as a Lego set. Okay, cool idea. And then you can go in and submit it to Lego. And you know what? If you submit it and they kind of accept it, they have lots of submissions like this one. But if you can get 10,000 people to vote for your project, they're going to put into serious consideration of actually making this project. So if you can get 10,000 people, they're going to make it. Almost. And you're going to get a piece of the cake. They're going to give you a share of the revenues because you suggested the ideas or you helped develop the ideas in this process. And some things that actually is important here. You cannot really separate social media from crowdsourcing and open innovation today. You need to become much stronger, much more understanding of the tools and the powers of social media. And I'm asking you some questions, but I'm also just quite curious about how you actually do things here. So how many of you do not have a LinkedIn profile? Anyone not having a LinkedIn profile? About 5 people raising their hands, and then those who will not admit so, and more people. So about 20 people in here in this room not having a LinkedIn profile. If you're serious about innovation, how it's going to work for the future, and not just for getting a new job, getting your resume on LinkedIn, but also for being a serious innovation partner in the future, you need to have an up-to-date LinkedIn profile, and you need to start knowing how the search capabilities on LinkedIn works. Okay, how many of you have a Twitter profile? How many of you actually tweet regularly? Not that many. Twitter is something about where people look at this one. Why should I tweet about what I'm doing right now? Why should I read about people, what they had for breakfast and things like that? But it's not about what you tweet here. It's how you can extract information. If you use things like Hootsuite, which is like a desktop application or an application for Twitter, which allows you to do searches on Twitter. If you find 5 to 10 relevant keywords for your industry, and you search on those on Twitter, and you go and identify people and companies using those search terms on Twitter again, you start to see patterns of information. You start to see the power of transparency. And that's what you can use social media for innovation efforts as well. It's about getting insights, and then to some extent also promoting your own company. But I really think people are underrating the getting insights on social media. Another thing Lego did, they went out of the comfort zone. They really had, that's what you're going to see. When you start working in open innovation ecosystems, you're going to experience partners with low tolerance for failure. Big companies do not like failures. At least that's changing a little bit because they're starting to realize if they're going to be successful with innovation, they need to experiment. There's a mythology, well, a lot of thinking about the lean startup mythology, which is fail fast, fail cheap, and fail often. That kind of mentality is also getting into big companies. And it also allows them to experiment much more with companies like yours, giving you new opportunities again. I'm going to skip this one. Innocentive is one of the innovation intermediaries, and this one is a startup company that actually started to Sunlight Solar that went in to see how they could work with innovation intermediaries. And they wanted to provide evening lights. There's so many places in the world where when it gets dark, it's literally dark. You just don't have any light. How can you solve that problem? That's something Sunlight Solar went out to do. And they had already spent like $250,000 in the R&D budget, and kind of getting exhausted. They didn't have much more money. But they still managed to find just some money. I think you need approximately $10,000 as a minimum to engage with an innovation intermediary. But the results were they got almost 1,000 people involved on their project. They got 78 solutions to the challenge they poses in just 62 days. So you are small companies. How can you reach out to the bigger world? Crowdsourcing, innovation intermediaries is a way to do so. And it's also built on the belief that not all the bright people are working in your companies. And I hope you're not so naive that you think so if you're only 25 people in your company. There are many more people outside there. So see how you can tap into this one. And then you can get results and insights like this CEO from Sunlight Solar. And that's also the essence of open innovation, something I'm going to catch on later. Why should you do open innovation? Why should you do crowdsourcing? You get diversity, more opportunity, and more important, which is so important today, you get speed. That's really important. So another thing, you guys with the IT community, you should check out Topcoder, which is about 500,000 people, which is helping solve IT-related challenges. And then there's also a company in Arizona in the US. It's called Local Motors, and it's doing some pretty cool things. They want to crowdsource new vehicles. They want to create new cars together with a crowd, or new motorcycles together with a crowd. That's quite interesting what they're doing. And you can see they offer co-creation, micro-manufacturing, sales, and marketing. And this company, I don't think they're more like 40 people right now. So it's a fairly small company. And they're trying to disrupt the auto industry. Okay, they do not have the same success as one of the other disruptors, Tesla Motors, which is really just taking off right now, but they're doing some cool things. And how it works is that they actually can go in and you can design a new kind of car, a buggy, or a motorcycle, and you can prototype it, and then you can even build it, and they have sales channels in which you can sell this as well. So what I like about this one and the insights as a small and medium-sized companies can do from here, what is it actually Local Motors does? Well, in my view, the real thing they're doing is facilitation. They build a community of people within the industry, the vehicle industry, and they now develop this one, they make it work, and now they're moving this into other industries, in this case, complex mechanical devices. So what is the business that Local Motors are in? That's a good question to ask, because are they just developing cars and motorcycles, or do they actually facilitate? And if you facilitate, if you become very good at that, then perhaps you can move this to other industries. That's exactly what they're doing. And in this process, I see that this could be a way for SMEs to develop business. How can we become a facilitator within our given industry? And could it even help for bigger companies? Could they use this approach to develop new business areas? When you got all the right ecosystem and working for you, with you, you get new opportunities. That's what they're starting to see at Local Motors. They're facilitators. So some benefits, if you look at the companies here, open innovation and crowdsourcing, speed, diversity, new knowledge pools. Open innovation and crowdsourcing also allows companies to go out there and experiment, to get a better understanding what the future of innovation looks like. You can get marketing as well as innovation benefits. The Starbucks case is an example of this one. How about the people, and especially on crowdsourcing? You know, people who go in and submit ideas and participate in open innovation, individuals, not companies, individuals, they don't do it for money. They do it because they like the process. They like being part of the community. They do it because they want to learn. And heck yeah, if I can make a few bucks in this one, or $1,000 or $10,000, that's good. But that's not the key reason people are in there. It's more because they enjoy it and they can learn from it. When we talk about these new things of innovation, we also need to be aware of that we need to go beyond the products and technologies. And I really like some thinking being done in Chicago, started about 10 years ago, in which they went in to look at this company called Dublin, and they looked at why innovation failed. They actually said that 96% of all product innovation fail. And why is that? And one reason they really discovered is that companies can actually innovate on what they actually develop later on 10 types of innovation. And they also had too much focus on the product itself or the technology itself. And if you put all your money here, that's also where you should get your return on investment, right? And wrong. Because you didn't get the return on investment there. It was actually very bad return on investments on what you put there. And the thinking behind this is, it doesn't matter if you have the best product in the world or the best technology in the world, if you do not know how to get it to the customers, someone paying for it. And in order to get your products and technologies to market, you need to work on different kinds of innovation. You need to have the financial models in place, the delivery models in place. And just to give you an example, Dell Computers. You know, Dell Computers were one of the pioneers of internet trade, e-commerce. But any guesses on what actually built that company, what made it great? What was the differentiators about Dell Computers? Any guesses?
Because you can manage yourself, handle the computer yourself.
It was smaller, you could build your own computer. Yeah, other things? Fast delivery, and someone said cash flow, right? Yeah, and that's where I would like to go to, because you're right, the things you're saying about fast delivery and build it yourself, it was great at that time. But remember that these were the pioneers. And what is it that we do when we actually go in and shop online? Yes, we go in and build our own computer and we get it ready, but the last thing we do is to take our credit card and ka-ching, money to Dell. And that cash flow financed the entire growth of the company. And that's what you can call business model innovation. In Europe, there's been lots of talk about the solar cell industry. In Denmark, it was really not working. It was not taking off because you had to spend about 15,000, 20,000 euros to get it installed on your rooftops. It was too much money. Then someone thought about, well, you don't need to buy it. Why don't you just lease it? Hey, no money up front, you just pay a monthly fee, and it just got started, and it took off like that. Business model innovation, financial innovation. And just another thing here, I mean, look at you guys, there's got to be someone in here. How many of you drive a Harley Davidson? Any Harley Davidson drivers? Motorcycle riders? None of you?
I've sat on one.
You sat on one, okay. But you know what? You have a Triumph or whatever the motorcycle would be, a Japanese model, and you have a Harley Davidson here. If you ask me, what's the difference? I mean, there's a bunch of metal and there's actually quite much technology here, but what's the difference? And then, hey, listen. We can hear it. There's like 200 meters down there, but we can hear it. There's a Harley Davidson coming. It sounds like a small fishing boat coming through a village, just boom. And you know what? Harley Davidson actually tried to trademark that sound. The reason being, Harley Davidson understands it's not about selling technology or metal. It's about selling an experience, a customer experience, including the sound. If you go, especially in the US, and if you've been to Las Vegas and seen the Harley Davidson shop there, it's an experience. That's what they're selling you. They're selling you a lifestyle and an experience. And they're doing it quite well, because how many of you know of brands in which, or let me ask you another question. How many of you companies think you're going to be so popular that people are going to tattoo the brand of your company on your arms? Harley Davidson has been quite successful in this one. And not only the bikers, the one percenters, they're doing it quite well here. And this actually goes a bit further, because if you look at cars are more or less the same thing. Hey, but you know that Mercedes-Benz and BMW, they're trying to trademark how you slam a door. The sound that comes when you slam a door. Because those are the things that are going to differentiate you today. Because people are starting to realize it's not the product or technology that will separate your offerings. It's the things that actually brings it to market. And I really hope you're going to consider this when you start developing your businesses as well, even further than today. So I'm going to move a bit fast here. Big, small companies. I wrote this blog post. And by the way, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, shoot me an email. I've written about 700 blog posts now. I know lots of other bloggers. So if you need something, information about a given question issue, send me an email and I'll get back to you with some good reads for you. This one is the blog post about 7 key differences between big and small companies. Just going to put them up there pretty fast. I mean, the first one, speed of decision making, kind of says itself. And also the attitude towards risk. I mean, if you're invested a lot in something, you want to protect it, whereas you guys, you really don't care. You're here to build things. And now the same thing about rules. I mean, if an industry builds rules, they kind of follow it because it protects them, the big ones. But you guys, you can break rules, at least bend them, but maybe even break them sometimes, because let's change how things work. And this is kind of clashing with each other. And it also tells you that there's some signs that you need to be careful of and recognize when you start working with big companies, because if they go in and work with you, it might take a year for them to make a decision. And you think that, hey, now we're getting into the big companies. But you know, some companies do what they call reverse engineering. And that is actually, they buy your products, if it's technology, look at it and split it apart just to see how it works. And you thought that this big company is going to become a customer of yours. They're just spying on you. So you need to be careful on a couple of things here, because big companies are just starting to get into this mindset in which a win-win situation is not really, I'm the big guy, I take everything. It's only now they're starting to think that if we want to do win-win together, it means that, hey, even the small companies can really grow together with us in the ecosystems. That's also what I talk about. Open innovation, especially in B2B, you can liken that to driving a car. You have the big company in the front seat having their direction there. And then you have smaller companies getting into the back seat and seeing how they can actually contribute to these things. Another thing which I find is very important when you talk about innovation and entrepreneurship. I mean, your companies are so small that you're probably just having one product line or service line. If you do not succeed on this one, you don't have a company anymore. It's do or die. It's survival for you guys. I started 3 companies myself. I got to 7 people each time, 7, 8 people, and then it just imploded. Getting from that small company to the medium size to the big company, it's so difficult. It's also a matter of survival, it's a matter of do and die. Is this really innovation? It's not innovation how big companies think about this one, because big companies is more about innovation for strategic choices. They already have this product line or industry. They might have 2 or 3 different areas. And now they can say here, we got these resources. Should I put them here, here, or here? Corporate innovation is about making strategic choices. Innovation for small companies is do or die. And there's some differences, and you need to have different approaches when you have different objectives like this one. So just some advice from Chris Toon, who is one of the leaders of open innovation when he was at P&G. And some of their mistakes is that it's difficult to get in touch with the right people in big companies. You might spend half a year getting to the right people, the right department, the right business unit in a big company. And that's something you need to be prepared for and be prepared to spend that time to do so. Another thing he says is that big companies are not very good at telling small companies how complex this big company is and how difficult it is to operate in them. And big companies have a tendency to assume that, hey, we're a big company, so everyone knows what we do and how we operate. That can lead to a lot of frustration. But in order for them to work better with smaller companies, they need to be more appreciative of what you actually bring in there. Be more flexible in the legal frameworks. It used to be when you were to work with a bigger company, you had first an NDA about 25 pages and you signed it and, well, that's it. I mean, you're kind of locked in this one. They've become much more flexible in open innovation relationship with the legal frameworks here. Of course, long-time perspective, understand things happen slower. That's some of the lessons that he would like to share about 2 years ago about open innovation. This is still true in many companies. And don't be arrogant. big companies are arrogant pricks sometimes, sorry to say so. But they really think that because they're big, they can do whatever they want to and treat smaller ones as they please to. You need to find those who understand how to get around these things when you find your partners, because you need to understand in any industry you have 4 to 6 big companies. 4 to 6 big companies. When you start talking those, which one should you approach? Should you approach the one that's the biggest? Well, that might make sense, but I would advise you to go in and think about what I'm talking about here and see who would be the best to work with, the best to innovate with. Which of these 4 to 6 big companies do have the best understanding of how an SME can bring value to the table? And that might turn out it's not the biggest one. It could be one of the other ones. But that's where you could get most value in a partnership with them. I'm running a bit out of time, but I really like this one, the people side of innovation. This is a bright CEO, and I hope this is the kind of CEO you will be when you grow your companies. What happens if you do not invest in your people? Well, you're worse off. You're actually in trouble if you don't invest in your people and they stay in your company, because then they're not really the good people that you should use there. Okay, innovation culture, education is key. It's very important, and that's something that you need to start training already now, and also in bigger perspectives. So that's what I like about SEB, that you take initiatives like this one to actually go out and promote it. Innovation Academy work in this one as well. We need things like this to get you guys up to speed on innovation. And another thing which is important, when you grow your companies, you need to understand that innovation actually happens in phases. Discovery, incubation, acceleration. And I've worked a lot with venture capitalists and startups, and one of the biggest mistakes you see is the CEO or the founder believes that when I grow this company, I'm very good at the discovery phase, getting the idea, whether it's technology or market-based. I'm also very good at building the company for actually applying this to the market and going from 5 to 50 to 100 people. And I'm also the right guy to be in charge of the IPO. I'm also the one who's going to run the company when it's 800 people, 1,000 people. But you know what? Someone who are very good at the early stages should continue doing this one. I would rather see a CEO become serial entrepreneur and keep doing new businesses, because that's what that person is good at. And someone's very good at taking those ideas and figuring out the business opportunities and take it to market. And someone are just very good at running big companies. So what you need to consider much more is having the right people at the right time. And when you start to plan for the growth of your companies, how can you actually identify in your network the people you need 5 months, 6 months from now, who you need a year from now or 2 years from now? And how can you start bringing them closer to your company so you can get them at the right time? Some things that I would look at if I were to look at people working for innovation in a big company, and also to some extent with startups. And you see 2, 3, and 4, networking, communication still, to strategic influence has become much more important than ever before. And also like this one, Paul Campbell, he actually became a vice president at HP in Silicon Valley by being an intrapreneur, building new business within the company. And just what he's saying here, if you want to be good at what you're doing, also as a startup, it's not enough to just focus on one business function. So you need to actually piece innovation across 3 or more business functions at the same time. Be much more diverse in your thinking and see the bigger picture. And you can actually, as a small company, you do not have those functions internally, but that's why you go out there and find partners. So what characterizes an innovative organization? A few things here. They must embrace experimentations. Big companies must do so, and as a smaller one, you already do this one. You can just not afford to fail as often as they can, because you need to get things right faster. Otherwise, it's going to be a longer struggle for you guys. Also, when you start building your companies, you need to consider that if you're really on the track to become a bigger company, the culture that you're developing right now, the signals you're sending as leaders, and I assume most of you are leaders here, it's going to be carved in stone for the years to come. When you're a big company with 50, 100 people, 200 people later on, it's too late to change the culture of that company easily. It will take hard work to do so. So if you want an innovative organization, plan for it already now. That would also be one of the things that I would advise you guys to. The transition phase, going from a small to medium-sized company to a big company, that transition phase is critical. And I know that you need to consider just how to survive and how to get to those next steps. But if you can see that things are actually developing nicely, and you can see you're actually on track in this one, start planning that transition phase already now. And I would also argue that ideas is never the problem. There are plenty of ideas out there. What's important is how you execute on those ideas. And the key to execute ideas is to have the right people on board. So when I work with big companies, I really try to advise them, people first, get that in place, then processes next, and then ideas. And too often I see companies, they're focused too much on just developing ideas. Let me just go a bit first. Okay, and networking, there's no networking culture. If you do not have that in place, you do not have any innovation culture. We were about 10 minutes late. Sorry. Do you have 5-10 minutes more? 5?
5 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah. So also, if you're going to train people to become better networkers, I mean, people do not become good networkers by themselves. It might be a bit strange for you guys, but I'm a highly introvert person. When I do things like this, when I want to sit in the back seat, I don't want to go to dinners, lunches with anyone. But you know what? Being an introvert forced me to train myself to become a better networker. I can turn on a switch. I'm a good networker when I'm at networking. Otherwise, I just want to be by myself. And the same, that's something you need to consider. About 40% of the population are introverts to some extent. How can you train them to become better networkers? Because you need them to become better networkers in your companies. And in order to do so, it requires some kind of direction. In which direction should we become good networkers? How can we develop them? And more importantly, how can we give people the time to actually build those relationships and nurture those relationships? I'm going to skip some of these things. So the last 4 slides I have is just some views on the Baltics. And well, I must admit that I was told this would be about SMEs. In my view, SMEs is from 20 to about 300 people, about that size, but you're even smaller. But I even had difficulties finding companies being about 100 people, 100 plus, so you have lots of small companies here. I see that as a potential, opportunities. You're really going to have a great time for innovation the next 10 years. So I hope I can find some way to be part of this one, because you're just on a phase here where you're going to have so many learning opportunities and growing pains. It's going to be difficult for you guys. But the next 10, 15 years on innovation, entrepreneurship in the Baltic region is going to be fun for you guys. So just some views on what you should consider here, because I looked at this company here, and in terms of open innovation, I think there are about 150 people, and they actually had a Facebook site. That's quite good. But they're a pretty high-tech company. They produce a digital microwave data transmission equipment, and they have their social media presence is on Facebook as one of the things. They actually have an updated Facebook page here. I'm kind of wondering, why? It's good that you're going to embrace social media, but if you're working in these areas, I have to ask myself, is Facebook actually the right place to be? Another thing is this one, Exma Optics, again a very quite high-tech company, and they are right now actually having some university research projects. But if you really want to be successful with open innovation, you need to get beyond universities as soon as possible. Universities are dropping on the wanted to work with list for big companies because they're simply too slow. And there's so much happening out there globally on working with startups and big companies together that you're actually starting to some extent to bypass universities. So how can you go beyond universities? Something I would look at for this Exma company. And then I also visit this company, Elmi. And I mean, when you want to become good at what you're doing today, if you want to become good at innovation, communication has taken a new role. If you're going to look at this company, it's not really that inviting. It's a very simple website, and it's very technical. But you need to communicate much more differently if you want to become good at open innovation, because it used to be when we talked about promotion, branding, PR, on innovation, all about that you had the innovation teams or the startups developing them products, and then you had sales and marketing doing the sales. But today you also need to brand your corporate innovation capabilities. So if you want to become the best preferred partner within a given ecosystem, you need to start branding yourself and building that perception that you're actually someone worth working with. Of course, if you build perceptions, you better also be able to prove it. So you also need the process in place to make it work. Another company I looked at was this one, GoSwift, which won a recent prize in Estonia. Looks like a quite interesting company and doing some good things. And also like how they actually have a good presence on LinkedIn on this one. And if you went down on LinkedIn here, I really like this one because if you went down, they have a complete description of what the company was doing. So I went on social media, in this case LinkedIn, I found the CEO of this company and I got a good introduction to the company. And it also raises the question that this is a guy called Hannes Plinte, but he's the CEO of GoSwift. And what I would like to point out here, your personal networks will merge to become your business networks as well. So if I were to just say something to Hannes there, he's very good at putting this one up there. But I would have taken a more professional photo rather than a private photo for this one, because he's using it quite well here for business purposes. So I was a bit confused by this one. Again, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, perspectives, we're going to be around for the day so we can talk here. Otherwise, just shoot me an email and I hope to be in touch with you.